Lowe's knows you've got a job to do, and we help get it done. With the MyLowe's Pro Rewards program, eligible members save more with volume discounts on qualifying orders through a quote of $2,000 or more. Join for free today. Lowe's, we help, you save. Offer can't be combined with any other discount, contract, and/or special pricing. Exclusions, more terms, and restrictions apply. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
I haven't listened to anything you've said in the last 20 seconds.
Damn it, Trevor.
Oh, God, I hate you so much.
Well, it's you. We can cross off the reading.
I watch almost everything, and the majority of it is terrible.
What is this podcast about?
My recorder keeps turning off.
Damn it, Trevor. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of No Win Scenario podcast. I am Don Schechter, and joining me, as always, is my companion, my little friend, my little buddy, Trevor. Trevor, it's always wonderful to see you and hear your voice on this rainy Friday day here in Boston. I'll have to bleep that town out so no one knows anywhere where you are.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing?
I can say that the feeling is not mutual. I'm not happy to be here looking at you, talking to you. I don't enjoy any of this, but here we are. And, let's get some pennies out of this and keep moving forward.
Well, I'm excited for our guest. We have a sort of a wild card today with Kent Sanderson as our special guest today. I've known Kent for many, many years, and he's involved with a different side of filmmaking that we've talked about.
Oh, wait, Don, wait, hold on. Do you know what time it is?
What time is it, Trevor?
It's time for Trevor's Tangent. Okay, Trevor's Tangent. Welcome, everybody. This is a new addition to our podcast formula where I get to go on a tangent and talk about whatever I want that has absolutely nothing to do with the podcast, and Don doesn't get to say a damn thing.
I am contractually
Shut up! You're not supposed to say anything.
I was just about to say I am contractually not allowed to say anything. I have agreed to this.
Oh my God, be quiet. Trevor's Tangent. Shh. Okay, I just want to talk about recently at the Brattle Theatre in Cambridge, they're doing a retrospective of the work of Christopher Walken. And last week, I saw a 35 millimeter print of the film A View to a Kill from 1985, starring Christopher Walken as a Bond villain with his hench person played by Grace Jones. It's a terrible film. It is shut up! It is also an awesome film. And oh my God, I was so happy. And then a few days later, I went to go see their screening of James Foley's At Close Range, which I think is a near masterpiece of neo-noir. It's from 1986. It's with Sean Penn and Christopher Walken. It is an just fantastic, gut-wrenching thriller. It's streaming on Prime now. I encourage everybody to check it out. Beautifully, beautifully shot, phenomenal cinematography. An excellent score by Patrick Leonard. It does have some, I'll give you guys a trigger warning, it does have some very grim, very intense violence in it, but it's based on a true story of a criminal father reuniting with his son. And it is, my God, is it a brilliant film. Streaming on Prime, At Close Range by James Foley. I highly, highly recommend it. And until next time, that's it for Trevor's Tangent.
Thank God that's over. I wasn't sure if you said Sean Penn or Sean Young.
Shut up.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed our first ever and hopefully last Trevor's Tangent.
Nope. This is now in every episode.
Trevor called me in the middle of the night about a week ago saying, I figured it out. I figured out my place in society. I want to sing my own jingle. And
Trevor's Tangent.
This is the happiest I've ever seen Trevor in the 20 some odd years that I've seen him.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I met him when I was 4 years old and he was probably 25.
Yeah. 45.
The look of joy on this man's face, this gentle giant.
Shh, 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 shh. Quiet. Shh. Shh. Trevor's Tangent.
It's always with us, isn't it? Well, it will be something that can pop up at any time But please, 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 if you enjoy it, please let us know. And if you don't enjoy it, please let us know.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this interview with Kent, only because I'm apparently the only one who's being a professional here and talking about who our upcoming guest is.
There was a tangent when I was trying to tee him up, sir.
So let's Don, give the audience a little background on Kent, and then let's go into it.
Well, I'm just gonna not ruin too much. All I'm gonna say is Kent, he's involved with producing, distributing, purchasing films for Bleecker Street. They have a whole range of movies that they've been putting out there to the world for a while, and I just stay tuned and see what this has to do with science fiction and with Taylor Swift. Stay tuned.
If you're shopping while working, eating, or even listening to this podcast, then you know and love the thrill of a deal. But are you getting the deal and cash back? Rakuten shoppers do. They get the brands they love, savings, and cash back. And you can get it too. Start getting cash back at your favorite stores like Levi's, Plow & Hearth, Adidas, Sephora, and Neiman Marcus. Stack sales on top of cash back and feel what it's like to know you're maximizing the savings. And it's easy to use. And you get your cash back sent to you through PayPal or check. The idea is simple. Stores pay Rakuten for sending them shoppers, and Rakuten shares the money with you as cash back. Download the free Rakuten app or go to Rakuten.com to start saving today. It's the most rewarding way to shop. That's Rakuten. Rakuten.com.
I am Kent Sanderson. I am the president of Acquisitions and Ancillary Distribution at the indie film studio Bleecker Street. My job encompasses overseeing all of our productions as well as any films required finished. And I also oversee all revenue streams outside of the initial theatrical release. So that includes streaming, VOD, exciting things like airlines and army bases, sort of everything in that universe. I've been with the company since inception. It launched in 2014, so we will be celebrating our 10th anniversary next year.
Well, congratulations on that. But Kent, what the hell are you doing on a sci-fi podcast?
Well, one is I was asked by my very old friend Don to join said sci-fi podcast. It also so happens we are releasing at least 2 sci-fi films next year. We have only released one in the past, which was Save Yourselves, which was a lovely film we picked up at Sundance and then tried to find a way to release it in COVID. But no, we are definitely moving more into the genre space. Not for lack of trying before, it's just the right opportunity just never really presented itself. So the first true sci-fi movie we'll be releasing will be in January. It's a film called ISS. And it's a thriller set on the International Space Station. So you have 3 Americans, 3 Russians living in peace up there when a nuclear war between U.S. and Russia breaks out, and each crew is told to take the station by any means necessary. It's a good movie.
Nice.
I think I've heard of that. Who directed that?
Gabriella Cowperthwaite, who we also worked with on a couple of years ago on a film called Megan Levy. Very different movie, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, again, full disclosure, I've known Kent, I think, for 20 years. We overlapped in college for, a year or two before you went elsewhere for greener pastures. But, yeah, I mean, sci-fi is hard to, I guess, why is this the first forays into sci-fi for Bleecker and in general? Like, why is sci-fi so hard to sell? Is it the size of the audience, or...?
I think I'm not sure sci-fi is that hard to sell. I think that there's especially for a company like Bleecker Street. We're not generally putting out 4-quadrant movies. We're putting out movies that serve one specific audience or 1 or 2 specific audiences at a time. So having a film that appeals to genre fans can be a huge asset, especially in this theatrical climate where genre and horror and sci-fi just tend to be doing better. Not everything is doing better. I'm currently looking at the box office coming in right now. And The Creator is in 3rd place, distant 3rd place behind Paw Patrol and Saw 10. which is disappointing. But no, for us, it's been a couple of things. One is when Bleecker Street first started, we definitely had a tendency and a brand that focused on catering to older audiences. Films like Eye in the Sky and Trumbo and some of these some of our early releases all sort of targeted that like 45 and up demo. Definitely tilting a little bit more towards the female audience too. As we've gotten older and started diversifying what they're doing, a couple of things have happened, where we've gotten more into production, and relying less on just available movies. And two, I've definitely just been on a very dedicated mission to get us into more commercial adjacent spaces like sci-fi. We have a very, very, very diverse slate next year, and I'm super excited about it. It goes all the way from a couple of genre films. We have a horror movie set 45,000 years in the past in a completely made up language. We have
with subtitles. How they handling that?
Yes, there are subtitles.
Interesting.
We have an adaptation of the last third of the Odyssey starring Ralph Fiennes, but then we also have some more classic Bleecker-esque movies. Like we're doing a film called The Fabulous Four, which starts production next Wednesday, and that's like a bridesmaids-y comedy starring Bette Midler, Susan Sarandon, and Sheryl Lee Ralph. So we're really all over the place, and I think we'll end up releasing more movies than we ever have in a single year in 2024. The last thing I think that has kind of held us back on sci-fi a bit is, honestly, sci-fi movies are not cheap, and Bleecker Street is a company with independent means, if that makes any sense. So, to have a bigger budget sci-fi film can be challenging because the price of entry, for anything that's visual effects driven, can generally be pretty steep. So as we've grown, it's been easier for us to grow into those spaces.
So I've got a question regarding that. Much has been made about Gareth Edwards, before advertising, making an $80 million movie look like a $200 million movie with the creator, and how that might change, science fiction and action film workflows. But that doesn't seem to be the case if it's coming in, or that doesn't seem like it will be the case if it's coming in third place behind Paw Patrol.
Yeah. I think, look, $80 million is not nothing either. I have never personally, I have never worked on a movie that's cost more than like $40 million. So 80 seems like a bounty to me. But I think what Gareth and his crew have demonstrated is that you don't have to spend that level of money as long as you're prepared to do what it takes to bring your production costs down. I mean, I think a lot was said about the fact that it wasn't shot in London or one of the classic production hubs. It was really shot in location in Asia, where the costs of the production itself, let alone the visual effects, was way lower. In fact, it sort of reminds me of the fact that for Bleecker, because again, we are always cost conscious. When we're involved in a production, it's very, very frequently shot internationally for a variety of reasons. The tax credits can be tremendous. The cost of production is less. I think in the last 3 years, we've only had 3 films that'll shoot within the United States itself. We've had movies. I mean, the Odysseus movie was shot in Greece and Italy. We've had actually a bunch of movies shooting in Italy. We've, even the Gold in My Ear film, Golda, which we just released with Helen Mirren, that was shot almost entirely in London. It was technically a British movie, but honestly, it was the cost of doing it was less, and there's a sizable UK tax credit the film could take advantage of. So it's the creator in some ways is like a supersized version of an indie movie in that regard, where they built the story, they built the world of the movie around where it was going to be economic to shoot.
For movies that you're not involved with in terms of production, that you're just picking up, what drives why you guys pick up a film? Is it performance at festivals? Is it 90% actor on that poster? Is it whatever seems to be the what you think might be filling the need for that coming year? What's the primary driving factor here?
It's a mix of things. One is, where do we have room in our release schedule? I just acquired a movie out of Toronto that will be announced probably in the next week. And one of the reasons we acquired that particular film was, and it's sort of a classy drama, and with a name cast. One of the reasons we targeted that film in particular was like, all right, well, we have room to release a movie in sort of March right now, because we had films dated dated at least internally for January, February, and April. And then, some of our productions would start being ready around May, June, July. And we want to save some of those slots to pick up something at Sundance if we want to. Mm-hmm. So we were like, okay, well, if we release this movie in March, it makes sense because everything else we're releasing in the first quarter is either sci-fi or horror, or we have a secret project that'll be announced in December that'll release in April, which I think caters to that audience in some ways. And so we're like, all right, well, if we're going to buy anything in Toronto, it's probably going to be sort of an adult skewing classic sort of Bleecker style drama, because those will do well in March, and it's not going to compete with the other genre titles we're releasing. Uh-huh. But like anything else, it's a combination of business and passion. We go to a film festival and we see a movie, and we have to sort of make a bet as to whether or not we think it will do some business both theatrically and downstream. And if the answer is no, then we won't acquire it, even if we really love the movie. And then then we have to run a financial model. And there's a complicated Excel formulas to basically paint the what if picture of what is the P&L for this film really look like. We're constantly running those on the fly, when we're going around Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, etc.
So for indie filmmakers, that calculation, I assume, would the recommendation for them to focus, let's say, indie filmmakers making a $1 to $5 or $10 million, let's say $1 to $5 million film, would the recommendation be to focus on talent because X, actor might drive X amount of sales regardless of story, or
yeah,
would that be the
unfortunately,
recommendation?
Cast is more important now than I think that it really ever has been. For a couple of reasons is one, it makes the movie look bigger, no matter what the budget of the movie is, if you have people that are familiar, and people are just less likely to try stuff, especially driving in the movie theater and buying a ticket, or renting a film on VOD for a fixed price rather than waiting for streaming. And so cast can really help in that regard. And frankly, a lot of the places where movies live, whether it's a VOD platform, whether it's streaming, or a movie theater, that signals to those places that this is a film that's going to do more business, and so they're more likely to support it, and it sort of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in that way. Mm-hmm. So that's why most of the Bleecker movies, with some exceptions, but most of them will have, name casts associated with them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Earlier they're like, but sometimes we buy a movie because we're passionate about it, and it doesn't have any big cast. Like, we picked a beautiful little movie called The Starling Girl at Sundance earlier this year. Knowing it was going to be a small movie, and knowing that it didn't really have big famous actors, but that was just a film that we really believed in bringing to audiences.
Mm. And what was can you share the budget on that film? How big a film that was?
I think it was in the $3 million range, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So with going into genre and science fiction, what's your rollout strategy going to be? That I imagine it's going to be different for some of the smaller films. Like, for example, a film that you're listed as producer on, The Art of Self-Defense. I work for the Independent Film Festival of Boston. We had that film at our festival. It slowly built up, word of mouth through other festivals. And eventually, if I remember correctly, there was a slow rollout to a release nationwide. Is it going to be different with genre films that are going to be, maybe cost a little bit more, bigger production values and so forth?
Yes, I think so. Art of Self-Defense was actually kind of right in the middle. So, what's called a platform release, where you start off in a few cities, then gradually grow. It's usually a 4 to 5 week process before you're nationwide.
Right.
That tended to be the go-to move for, prestige films that we or Fox Searchlight or Focus or Sony Pictures Classics would release. That mode of distribution has really been hurt by in the post-COVID age. So you're not really seeing a lot of people do it anymore. Art of Self-Defense was we basically hit New York, LA, Austin, San Francisco, I think maybe Portland, Seattle, like sort of hip cities.
Yep.
Especially ones that had Alamo Draft Houses because they were a partner on that movie.
Yeah.
And then popped to like 600 screens nationwide the following weekend. So it was a bit of a faster rollout. But we did a sci-fi comedy a couple of weeks ago called Jules, where Ben Kingsley.
Yep.
So I would say pre-COVID, that absolutely would have been a platform release movie. We would have started slow, built up word of mouth, but it's just the sort of that mode of releasing has largely disappeared because it's hard also to stay in theaters as long as you used to. Theaters tend to be very they like to rotate out their titles very frequently now, and so that slow burn is just very hard. So we ended up going to almost 800 screens nationwide on week one with that movie, and it was definitely a success for what it was. For the genre titles we're releasing next year, yes, all of them will be nationwide releases right off the bat, whether that's 800 screens, 1,500 screens, 2,000 screens. All of them are going to be released all at once. Next year, I'm not exactly sure if we'll do or try any platform releases. I think if anything, we'll probably look to do something similar to The Art of Self-Defense on a movie, which I cannot share, unfortunately. I desperately want to. We'll probably do something like that because there's a lot of similarities between this project and Self-Defense.
As we're recording this, the writer's strike is over. The actors are still striking. Do those strikes, how do they affect your side of things? Is there going to be just a lack of things good coming in 6 months and you do something else? Do you stand by, or is there plenty in the pipeline that a strike of 6 months or however long doesn't really affect your end?
I think it's hard to say right now what the long-term effects are going to be. I think the thing that'll affect this the least is the actors' strike, because if I don't add anything else to the 24 slate at this point, we're fine. We already have 10 things lined up, and we have like 3 things lined up for 2025. And on top of that, we're also able to continue production during the strike because we're independents. We've signed, or rather, our producers have signed something called an interim agreement with SAG. It basically says that we'll abide by their last counter to the studios, and then it'll be replaced by the final deal they reach with the studios there. And so, once that's signed, you can sort of do whatever you want, and that includes publicity. We have a Meg Ryan film called What Happens Later that opens in November, and so
is this her directorial debut?
It's her second feature as a director.
Second feature, yeah.
She did a film called Ithaca 8 years ago. Her and David Duchovny. It's a classic two-hander rom-com in an airport. It's a really lovely film. That was one of the earlier ones to get a interim agreement because the plan is when that film releases, even if the strike is still going on or not, Meg will do the Today Show. Meg will be on the cover of People magazine. She'll be all around supporting the movie because SAG has given it the okay. In terms of the writer's strike, I don't know because I'm an LA dad at this point, so all of my my son's friends' dads, or when we were hanging around the soccer field watching them play, they're all writers. And what I'm hearing a lot from them is a lot of the writers are taking the time to write spec scripts, or write the scripts that they always wanted to write when they're not busy, writing episodes of a Star Wars show or this or that for a streamer. And so I'm wondering if there's actually going to be a boom of content interesting spec scripts. Yeah. And content that's more likely to be something that Bleecker or another independently minded company would go for. I just don't know. I think we'll have a better understanding probably in November, which is when the American film market is, if there's a lot of these so-called packages coming together where you've got director, cast, star, and a project looking for financing. If there's a lot flying around there, then I'll be very optimistic. If it's as quiet as, for example, Toronto was, which is something of a financing market as well as a film festival, and very, very little launched out of there. If it looks anything like that, at that point, I will be concerned about specifically content for 2025 being scarce.
Yeah, the programmer for the festival I work for, she went to Toronto, and Yeah, she echoed the same things as you did.
It's funny. The only package that I saw that launched and sold at the festival, for financing, was actually one that we had done immediately before the festival. We're doing like an airplane style parody of Downton Abbey called Fockham Hall.
Okay.
I will be there opening night.
So that we announced that we're doing that one, but that was kind of it. It was just weirdly quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So, as you know, we talk to everyone that we've been talking to on the podcast. We kind of ask about their unique stresses for their job. And so I wonder if you could maybe talk a little bit about, what are the pain points on your end? In my head, I imagine it's like, oh, a deal's gone horribly wrong or something. Or is it, those Excel formulas so protected that the math always works out or almost always works out?
The math does not always work out. There's sometimes movies don't do what you want them to do, and sometimes they do more. It's because I'm usually less worried. Actually, I'll say this: I have two moments where I'm the most stressed. One is when I see a director's cut of a movie for the first time. Where I'm just like, I dragged the whole company into this movie. I hope it's good, or I hope doesn't cause problems. And usually when I get about halfway through a cut, I'll sort of know the dread will either increase or dissipate depending on what I'm seeing. So like I watched the director's cut of a film 2 days ago, and I was like, I had this sort of just sinking feeling all morning long, and I realized like, oh yeah, it's because I have to go to the screening room and watch this movie. Fortunately, I was very happy with the cut, but that's always the toughest. Mm-hmm. And then the other toughest part is honestly when the film is released and you start to see the numbers come in, if it's going to work or not. We definitely had some successes this year, and we had some movies which really underperformed, and those are tough, especially as an independent company. And the bigger the bet you make, both in terms of the budget of the movie and your marketing spend, the bigger the stakes are, and it can be pretty scary when something doesn't really connect. Like this year. The film we did with Toni Collette, Mafia Mama. Yeah,
I wanted to bring that one up. I'm actually still looking forward to seeing that. I ride or die for Toni Collette. I was curious how that was for you guys.
It was one of these things where the movie came out to be kind of exactly what we signed up for. It's funny. She's fantastic in it.
Of course.
Everyone had a great time making it. And we committed more on that for marketing than we basically had any other movie we've done in years, and believed it could cross over into the mainstream. And I think we just got blindsided by the reviews. We knew that not everyone's going to be a fan. It's a very silly movie on purpose. And the reviewers really just went out for blood on it. I think that really hurt the performance of the film. So that was our big disappointment this year, even though loved working with Tony and Catherine Hardwicke and the producers. It's just sometimes you just get surprised by things, and that was not a good surprise.
Yeah, the marketing for that, I remember walking into my local theater, and that movie had a standee that was as large or possibly even bigger than a Marvel film, and I'm being dead serious. It was massive. You walked in, and there was like a bigger than life-size Toni Collette sitting there in that chair. And it made me, I hadn't even seen a trailer yet. And I was like, well, I got to see this.
And then Trevor took it home.
Yeah. And then I took it home.
Well, you can thank Bentley Moore, who runs exhibitor marketing for us, for anything you see in theater.
Okay.
She's great.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
For the films that you're doing in production, can you talk a little bit about what your role actually is on the films that Bleecker's doing?
Yeah, so I'm as you guys probably, if you guys looked at my IMDb page, which I think you did, I'm always credited as executive producer on those movies and not producer, because I'm by no stretch of the imagination an actual on-set producer, and nor would I want to take any credit away for that. So what that means is we sort of before the movie's made, we'll be consulted and usually have some approval rights on cast, sometimes department heads, certainly director, working hand in hand with the production, to build the movie up. We're sort of a backseat driver in that sense because, again, we're not the actual producers of the movie. It's, the way we get involved in financing films is as we do what's called a pre-buy or a negative pickup. So essentially, we're paying for part or all of the movie, but we're not cash flowing it. We're not personally producing it. It's a model that weirdly you'll never know sometimes if a studio is actually making the movie or they just agreed to basically you agree to buy it after the film is done and delivered.
Sure.
This sometimes happens with major studio films. It happens with a lot of indies, Black Swan was a famous one where, Fox Searchlight was credited as if they produced the movie, but they didn't. It was a worldwide negative pickup. So that's the way we get involved in the movie. So I'll be talking with the producer and the director if there's any changes we want to the script or to the cast or anything like that. And then when the movie goes into production, we basically go silent for that entire period of time. I'll watch dailies as they come in. I'll get updates, and sometimes again I'll go to set and be there for literally just a couple of hours. Usually, if I go at all, I find that I don't want to be accidentally disruptive to people that are probably having stressful day after stressful day making a movie. And then what happens is when the film wraps, there's usually a 10-week period until the director's cut is ready. And at that point, we get more directly involved in helping them shape the final version of the movie, because then it'll be a several week or several month process before the picture is locked. And then they go back away and they go finish the movie, with color, sound mix, visual effects, all that stuff.
Let me ask you this. You are, I would say exposed, but you work on so many different types of films. You mentioned dramas and comedies and silly movies and thriller and sci-fi, everything. What do you watch? Can you watch anything? What do you enjoy?
Well, I have two little kids, so not that much.
So Paw Patrol, you're in Paw Patrol is what you're telling me.
I'm going to the BAFTA screening on the Paramount lot to go see Paw Patrol 2 with my 6-year-old tomorrow.
Nice. Don't tell mine. I don't want to go.
Yeah, my brother wanted to come. He wanted to see the Paramount lot, and he's in his 30s. And I was like, so are you coming? Am I adding you to the guest list? He goes, you know what? I don't think I can stomach it. I'll see another time. No, I'm actually a huge genre fan. I always have been.
I enjoy your Twitter snark. That's one of the reasons I said I got to get you on early, because I just enjoy your Twitter snark about it. Mostly Star Wars these days, I think, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I was actually I've been watching the latest episode of Ahsoka in sort of installments.
I'm so sorry.
This morning. Oh,
what are they doing?
I don't know.
I think we're too old for it. I think it's for 20-year-olds who grew up with Rebels, and we just can't appreciate how slow and inconsequential everything is. I don't know.
I made it 15 minutes through the first episode and I was out.
I watched the first season of Rebels at the gym when it first came out, and I just sort of thought it was fine and sort of forgot about it. Mm-hmm. So I've been spending a lot of time on Wikipedia trying to figure out what the hell is going on in that show.
Good grief.
No, I mean, I like everything from, I do like, your classic sci-fi franchises. I mean, I'm named after a DC Comics character, so I have DC Comics stuff sort of baked into,
oh my God, it took me that long to figure out. It took me that long to figure out. See, oh my God, I'm embarrassed. I apologize.
No, it's a whole thing. I'm Kent, and then our first dog was named Clark. The second dog was named Lois. The third dog was named Olsen, as in Jimmy Olsen.
Yep.
And the fourth dog is back to be named Clark again.
Wow.
This is over a 40-year span of Sanderson family dogs.
You sure you weren't named after a dog you never met? This could be an Indiana Jones type.
Yeah, Clark was a lovely but grumpy fox terrier. So yeah, no, I definitely I'm a big fan of mainstream stuff like that. I mean, I'm not a fan of the Snyderverse, but I look forward to all the DC stuff and Marvel stuff generally. And then, my personal taste in movies is, I tend to be pretty filmmaker driven. So I'll usually figure out if I enjoy the work of those filmmakers more than that I will personally focus on something like cast or even genre. I mean, anything the Coen brothers make, I'm going to probably watch multiple times. Like it's my style of movie. So, and it's been good because in a work capacity, I think my CEO, Andrew Carpin, I've been working with for almost my entire career at this point. I think we have very different tastes in movies and what we personally enjoy a lot. And I think that's led to a lot of the diversity on the slate. Art of Self-Defense, for example, was something that I had to push so hard to get the company to agree to do. And we essentially fully financed that movie because it was something that I had loved Riley Stern's first movie, a film called Faults with Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yep.
I was like, we got to do this movie. This is cool. It's weird. I'm really going to enjoy working on this. And no one else aside from my acquisitions team kind of understood what the movie was trying to do. And we ended up forcing it through, and it was a modest success. So, it's one of my favorite movies I've worked on. I actually I have a poster signed by Jesse and Riley and Sandro behind my desk. So if you ever, when you're on a Zoom with me, my background isn't blurred out. You can always see that.
It's funny you mentioned just modest success. I meant to ask earlier, like, a small success, a huge success. How do you quantify, just generally speaking, if something is a success?
One of the things that I learned early in my career, which was literally the way that General Electric, which owned NBC Universal at the time, considered movies to be profitable. And their metric was the green light model at the base case of box office and VOD and all that stuff. You have to earn basically 15% on your investment. Not a huge return, but remember, movies are expensive, so 15% is okay. I would certainly like to have bigger profit margins than that to support, having a whole team of dozens of people working on movies. But that is one of the classic sort of film economics. We tend to look at it. Since the movies themselves cost such a wide variety of budget ranges and P&A spends, it really kind of depends on the movie.
Kent, I work in mental health. I'm a digital media producer. I do a lot of documentary work, podcast work with them, and so forth. I'm curious, with our previous interviews, they're talking about a lot of mental health issues growing, especially in some areas exponentially, in and around production. And I kind of wonder, are you seeing any of these things in the office?
Well, I have the great fortune now, since I moved to Los Angeles a little bit more than a year ago, I work remotely. Mm-hmm. But I think yes, like any industry, there's going to be stressful periods, and certainly you can see it on the staff when there's a very big release coming. And I know that, I certainly lose sleep, and my CEO loses sleep when you're approaching opening day of something big, because not only are you worried, but also the amount of work it takes to release a bigger film nationally. You're creating dozens and dozens and dozens of marketing assets for social media, TV, radio, all this stuff, making sure it gets out there, making sure you're paying your bills, making sure you're replicating the DCPs on time. So it's a combination of high stakes and high stress that definitely can take its toll on people. I'm always a little bit at arm's length from the actual theatrical release of the movie, but as a senior executive there, I see just the incredible amount of work that goes into releasing some of these movies. And sometimes it's nice, after we released Mafia Mom, we released a few more smaller films, sort of leading up into Golda, which is our highest grossing film of the year. And that's fun when you have a film that is going to be well reviewed, has an audience who's going to go see it, and you have realistic and very attainable goals that you could meet or exceed. That's a really nice feeling. And what I like about next year in particular is there's kind of no big single film that is going to drive everybody crazy. I think there's going to be a lot of very good movies that have very clear audiences, but that are not so wildly costly I mean, there's certainly some bigger budget movies like the one that has Odysseus, but there's a very reasonable business model behind all of them, and I think that creates a place that's much more fun to work at.
Okay, and my last question. It says on your IMDb that you're involved with an Untitled Mike Lee project, who I'm a massive, massive fan of. And can you say anything about that?
I think the producers, Gail Egan and Georgina Lowe, would buy a plane ticket from London to LA just to burn my house down.
Yeah,
if I
okay.
revealed anything about the movie.
I figured that. Thought I'd take a swing anyways.
Journalism. That's good, Trevor. That's good.
It's funny because I don't understand the whole Mike Lee secrecy. It very much predates my involvement in the industry, because he's been making movies in very specific ways for decades. But I will say the movie's fantastic, and it will have a title. It has a title. It is in post, but I'm thrilled with it. So it'll come out sometime next year.
Great! I can't wait. Very excited.
So my last question for you, Kent, before we let you go, is sort of two parts. One is, just sort of what do you see as the future of films that are, coming out in the next 2 to 5 years? But along with that is how does a company like Bleecker continue to be making and putting out, these modest range of films when it appears to a lot of folks on the outside that it's just all about bigger IMAX Marvel movies, and that's what people are going to make, and it's just going to be Avatar and Marvel movies that hits the mass audience. Like, are you, is there still the fear, or is there fear growing of losing just audiences in general for these, middle of the road films that are enjoyable, or it's no different than it has been?
I think that a certain segment of the audience after COVID just didn't come back to going to the movies. As our head of marketing says, movie going is a habit. And, pre-COVID, this was always an interesting stat to me because I find it absolutely pathological, but pre-COVID, half of moviegoers would not decide on what movie they were going to see until they showed up at the theater. They would look at what's playing. They're like, oh yeah, I'll check this thing out. I think that behavior sort of went away during COVID when people got way more familiar with the on-demand viewing experience. I always say that the independent film industry was hurt a tremendous amount when grandchildren taught their grandmothers and grandfathers how to use the remote properly. And that said, there are definite signs of life in the business. It hasn't gone away, and I think that we've gotten into more of a cadence with audiences where you just have to have something that feels like an experience that they want to go see, and you have to believe that you have a core audience that's going to go. For example, we don't have a really straightforward art house movie on our slate next year, except for the Mike Lee movie, because we're like, Mike Lee fans are going to go see this movie no matter what. We can count on them to show up and to engage with the movie. It sounds like you, Trevor, are one of those guys, which is
absolutely
great. It gives me a lot of hope. So I think that we're going to see. I don't want to say status quo for a while, but I am curious what's going to happen as I think superhero fatigue is real. I think it's going to take years before we stop seeing the kind of volume that we're used to seeing out of Marvel and DC. But I mean, you can see one is I think Marvel's problem is not necessarily one of lack of quality. I mean, they're still pretty good movies. The problem is that they've now moved on from their core characters, and they're just getting deeper and deeper into mythology. And DC has just not been consistent on delivering good movies, and I think has lost some viewer trust. So if those go away, I mean, we're going through an era where you have $2 billion worth of superhero movies going through the pipeline and dominating multiplexes for years and for months, with very little else able to come out. What's going to replace that? Is it more movies like The Creator, which are modestly budgeted and there's a real path to profitability? Is it going to be movies like Oppenheimer that emphasize that theatrical experience? I mean, you mentioned IMAX. There was a lot of hand-wringing in Hollywood when the Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 only had IMAX screens for a week, and IMAX made the decision to give all of those screens to Oppenheimer the week after Mission Impossible opened. And that ended up being such a colossally great decision on IMAX's part. Literally, I mean, Oppenheimer is now around $950 million worldwide. 59% of the gross of Oppenheimer is from IMAX screens.
Wow.
Yeah, but didn't Universal contract those IMAX weeks like 3 years prior? I mean, wasn't IMAX contractually bound even if they thought Dead Reckoning would eclipse Oppenheimer's grosses? Thank God they didn't go that route.
I'm not sure exactly what the deal was, but neither studio was willing to move their release date overall to have a longer IMAX run. But it's clear that people are craving that, premium experience. I mean, 59% of the worldwide gross, and they represent around 1% of the actual screens in the world. That's crazy. Just people wanted to see that on IMAX. So the answer is, I don't know. Something is going to, sort of like when Westerns fell out of favor, something else had to replace them as sort of the go-to form of entertainment. I'm curious what comes after superhero movies, but I'm not as concerned about the future of the mid-level, indie style movie, because I think the one thing I've learned over the last couple of years is if you get into something that you believe in, with a filmmaker you believe in, and you believe that there is a core audience, even if it's just one core audience that's going to show up to the movie or rent it on VOD, then there's a sustainable business model there, and you just have to have very reasonable goals and expectations.
I have a quick follow-up. What do you think about what AMC pulled with the Taylor Swift concert movie?
I wish Taylor Swift's dad called us. That would have been really fun.
That is a fantastic answer.
I confess. So there was a rumor going around Toronto that Beyoncé was pulling it together, pulling one together too. So I was like, we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll take a tiny fee.
Yeah.
See, Kent, your Paw Patrol is my Taylor Swift. I got to take my 9-year-old to that.
No, I think it's brilliant. I think it's really smart. I think that
$19.89 a ticket.
I mean, people were paying $500 to go to the concert. Seems like a bargain to me.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
So I think it's brilliant. Yeah. I think it's very hard to replicate, because how else are you going to open a movie to almost $200 million with almost no marketing unless you're Taylor Swift?
Right.
But I could see this for certain massive personalities that are giving a unique theatrical experience doing something similar. I don't know if it'll continue going through just one. The strange thing about the AMC deal is AMC is the distributor of the movie, as well as going to play it in their theaters, but it's also playing in all the other theaters. And so they had to hire a friend of mine, this guy named Dylan Marchetti, who runs Variance Films. They had to hire him to book all the other screens. And then there's not necessarily a thought as to what happens after the theatrical release. Like there's no streaming partner, there's no VOD or DVD release planned at this point, is my understanding. So it's a very unique situation because of her and her family's very specific goals for it. Like they have the rules right now is they have to, every theater that plays it has to agree to play it for 4 consecutive weekends, but weekends only, because she doesn't want it playing in any theater that's not sold out.
Oh my God.
They have to abide by this pricing. I mean, it's the last time I've heard about anything this stringent was Star Wars: The Force Awakens, where Disney said that when they released the movie, they're like, "Yep, we're going to release the first Star Wars movie in a long time. Here are the rules: it has to play for 4 consecutive weeks in the largest screen you have, and oh, by the way, we're going to take a much larger share of the box office from every ticket than we would on any other film. And if you don't like it, you don't get the new Star Wars movie."
Yep.
Well,
I think this is the perfect way to end on such a downer. Such a downer. I was going to say, see, you're a downer, Trevor. I was going to say, Kent, thank you so much. I don't care everything else we talked about. The fact that we could talk about Taylor Swift is really going to drive our ratings up. Yeah, on the Sci-Fi podcast. Oh, yeah. No, this is great. We're happy to sell out in this market. We're happy to.
Well, I don't.
Oh yeah, I mean. Well, I mean, Bleecker Street's known for quality, well-reviewed movies for grown-ups, and yet I was running around begging to do a Beyoncé movie. So come on.
Yeah. Come on,
so much,
Beyonce.
Kent.
I know Beyonce. I know you're listening to No Win Scenario. Call Kent. He's the guy for your concert.
We're great. We're great at what we do. Beyonce, it would be a great pleasure introducing you to the independent theatrical distribution marketplace.
Fantastic.
So Jay-Z, who's definitely listening to us, please talk to Beyonce for us. Thank you for making it this far in the podcast.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance supervisor at a manufacturing facility, he knows keeping the line up and running is a top priority. That's why he chooses Grainger. Because when a drive belt gets damaged, Grainger makes it easy to find the exact specs for the replacement product he needs. And next day delivery helps ensure he'll have everything in place and running like clockwork. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Well, that was a really good interview. It's a little kind of outside of our wheelhouse, but I thought Kent was really engaging, and I learned a lot about what an executive producer does, especially on the acquisition and distribution side. And I'm really looking forward to his Mike Lee film that he refused to talk about. I wish him luck when they dip their toes into a bigger budget genre film next year. Bleecker Street's a good company, and all the best.
Riveting, Trevor. Riveting.
Thank you.
You were.
Thank you, Donald.
See, that's what happens when we allow Trevor to speak first. We get such poetry.
Yeah.
Poetry, indeed. Well, Trevor, I was just so thrilled to be talking about Taylor Swift in my science fiction podcast.
Yeah. I was hoping to derail this episode, and
5 episodes in, we got no sci-fi at all. Taylor Swift and Beyonce references.
I knew I could do it. I was confident that I could mess with this thing, and
your journalistic range,
patting myself on the back, patting myself. Yep, I did a great job.
You did a great job.
I salvaged this episode once again.
Well, speaking of salvaging things, anything you're looking forward to?
I don't know. I'm probably gonna go see The Creator. I told Don I was probably gonna check it out, and then he invited himself to join me.
We should see it together. We should record live from a screening. But it was interesting to hear it's not doing so well. I mean, it looks fantastic, and it was done quote cheaply. What do you say? It was $80 million budget, I believe.
Yeah, I hear it looks fantastic. I talked to a friend yesterday who saw it in IMAX in 4K dual laser, and he said even that it was shot on the FX3, that it looked fantastic. It looked fantastic. So
FX3 is a full frame, small little tiny camera when it's like $4,000 camera. Obviously, they put real lenses on it, so beefed it up quite a bit. But this is the base of the camera is just a little $4,000 camera, which is pretty impressive. Yeah. Considering how much visual effects went into it.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I mean, I don't know, this is kind of down the tech rabbit hole, but I know it can output 16-bit RAW, and so I'm wondering if they recorded that way, or if they recorded internally, which that has a really good codec from what I understand. So I'm curious to read more about it.
No matter what, we can all agree that we need to get you a better webcam, because we're looking at you like it's 1998 there, Trevor.
Yeah, it's like 2-bit, 222 color space, There's
a reason this is a podcast without a visual component to it.
It does a PAL signal only, not even NTSC.
Well, guess what, Trevor? This wraps up episode 5.
Oh, thank God.
Of No Win Scenario, which means that we are going to be official very soon and tell the world that we are ready and available. So everyone should subscribe. Where should they subscribe, Trevor? Let's have you do this one. Number 1, subscribe where?
Apple Podcasts.
Ding ding.
Spotify.
That's also acceptable.
Spreaker.
Mm-hmm. See, he hasn't been paying attention all these years. There is Google Podcast. No one wants to hear your yeah. Is that you sing? Is that how you sing?
Yeah, that's how I sing.
Trevor has a case of the Fridays here, but everyone should subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. I think that covers. Oh, and Audible. Yeah, Amazon.
Oh, yeah, Audible.
Yeah, everywhere, please. And listen to our wonderful sponsors.
Yeah. Listen to all those sponsors.
Please. Let's get those pennies flying towards Trevor.
Yep.
Help him out. He needs it.
Yeah, God, do I ever.
Well, I am very much looking forward to our next episode and all our special guests this season. But for now, Trevor will take a nap and I will sign off. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you.